Cool. So today we have Ricardo Lima, or Ric Lima, from, CEO of Worldpackers, who I worked with in Brazil, actually, a couple of years back now when I was a UX designer. So welcome, Ric. How's things over there? It looks nice and sunny.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for listening. Yeah, it's sunny here. It's our winter here in Brazil, but it's sunny.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Midwinter sitting outside in a t-shirt. Yeah. Cool. So just a bit of context for you guys. Yeah, a couple of years ago was working remotely in Brazil and been introduced to Ric and Eric, the other co-founder of Worldpackers. And one thing I was going to say this as a question, but I think it's worth jumping into is I ended up sort of working remotely from the Worldpackers office, just invited to work from there a few days a week in Sao Paulo, and was just very impressed with the company culture. And I think still to this day, it is a company culture that I haven't seen replicated. I haven't seen the quality of passionate people, happy team members, like real connection and sort of, something in the air that was there, which I haven't seen since. Maybe it's down to Brazilian culture. Maybe it's down to good leadership. We're not sure. But anyway, I'll come to that in a second. So Ric, just a bit of context for you. So everybody on this call, and we're going to be sharing this as well in our Slack community, is coming to the final day of a 6-week program called the Prod MBA. And what we've been trying to do is really teach product managers and product owners how to validate concepts all the way through to generating revenue within 6 weeks. Beyond that, no, it's not just about sort of like tactics to validate ideas, but also like how do you manage yourself, building self-confidence, understanding what leadership is, and these kinds of concepts are there in the background as well. Things I think are really important to anyone's professional development. So before we jump into the first topic, if anyone has questions throughout this talk, then just post them on the chat and we'll come to them in half an hour or so. So we'll do Q&A for half an hour or so. Cool. So first thing, I'm going to start with the story. So first thing I remember about Worldpackers, and specifically in your case, was going into the office. Maybe there's 20 people or so in the office at that point, and the only person without a desk was Ric, who is also the CEO. Talk me through why that was the case. Right? What principle was behind that?
Yeah, good memories. First, when you were mentioning when I invited you to work remotely from our office, I have to confess that I had already second intentions of getting you on board. You guys are always in great hands. Yeah. So that's maybe also a tip for everyone. So yeah, I never liked the concept. I'm very human, connect a lot with humans by nature. Like for me, managing a team was really about how everyone was feeling, how everyone was doing, how we were going. So I was very communicative. I was talking to everyone the whole time. So I was never in one single point of the office, let's say. And also because we were growing and changing and everything was very chaotic at that time. And I think in the early days, let's say first 2 years of a company, it is chaotic. Like I didn't have the resources that you guys are having now. I didn't have much knowledge about startups or entrepreneurship. I had to learn everything by doing. So the way that I was learning was connecting to people. And also I was connecting with a lot of people out of the office. So I used a lot of mentorship. So I was constantly going out of the office, looking for partnerships, looking for sales, looking for mentors, looking for investors. And when I was in the office, I wanted to be in touch with everyone. So I tried to be all over the place. So I think a good thing in the early days is not to be shy, like to really push the people, push yourself to be out there. And the comfort zone usually is your desk and your computer, your cup of coffee. And I love that too. But I felt that I would be more useful moving around.
Yeah, but I also think it showed for me like a leadership skill that you display uniquely is that many, say for example, you work in London or Berlin, like as a generalization, like CEO wants some fancy corner office, they're going to pay like €1,000 a month for the WeWork or whatever, just because it looks good. Right. And I think one thing that I was very impressed with you by is really setting aside ego and putting other people first at all times. for me was very impressive, and you could see the dividends. I think particularly when I was initially there working just as a, not with you guys, just in the office physically doing my own freelance work. You could see the collective spirit there because you were leading by example and always, as I said, like coming in whenever there's a free spot, just finding that, but making sure that everybody else was, it's the word, eating first, I suppose. Right.
I also wanted to be very accessible for everyone. And I came from a very traditional industry. My background was finance. I was working in investment banking in São Paulo and New York, and that is an industry that people want to be really seen and feel very important, and money talks. So I felt very disconnected from my boss and the boss of my boss. That they were unreachable for me. So they were kind of protecting that place, and I had great ideas, and many people around me, they had great ideas. But that was about 12 years ago. So like the concepts of startups and that are coming to big industries like banking now, they weren't available at that time. So that was still a place where people were using ties and very traditional industry. So I came very hurt from this industry where I was not listening. I couldn't be myself. I had always to be pretending something. And I felt that if people are pretending something in the office, they're not in their best version. And that talks about emotions. And if you're having a personal problem and you're pretending you are not having the office, you're probably not being as productive as it could be. So for me as a CEO, would make more sense for the company to help you in a way that you become more productive. So it's a win-win situation. Sometimes we are hiding what we are living or feeling, afraid of what other people will think. And I saw a lot of that in the banking. So when I came to build my own startup at the time, was really about, okay, I want to make things different from what I want to keep the good things. Like there are great things that I learned in banking, but this was definitely one thing that I didn't want to continue.
Yeah. You touched upon as well that thing of again, something I observed from yourself and working in the Worldpackers culture is that sense of like humanity, right? It's just understanding like you're people are not employees, they are people that have needs and need connection as well. On that topic, like you as a leader, now that you've been CEO for I don't know what 6-7 years or so now, for a while.
Yeah.
What does leadership really mean to you at its core?
Yeah, my style of leadership, I think there are different styles. Like when you see like the Jeff Bezos or the Steve Jobs, I'm not like those guys. And I think if you can be one of those guys that are they're very good at something and they were really pushing around. And I felt that was not my skill. My main skill was really connecting to purpose, and my Worldpackers is a business created out of purpose totally. So I quit my job in the banking and I traveled the world for 3 years. And then I started a business to help more people travel. So since day one was really about purpose. I started with a good friend of mine, Eric, when we were very different in many points, but we were very complementary in other points. So it was really about getting more people who had the same purpose, who were aligned in the vision. And I think that's a big function of leadership, to put everyone on board of the vision that you have and make this vision belongs to everyone. I was not the guy that, okay, that's where we're going and everyone has to pedal that way and do that. And I'll give you more money if you do it. It was never my style. That was what I was hurt in the bank. I really wanted something that people felt part of the vision. So I always still in these days, I try to put people belonging to the vision and making this vision a collective vision. It's not my vision, Rick, as a CEO, but it's a collective vision that we all agreed on and we are going in that direction. And the second big function of leadership is to make sure that everyone is going to that direction. Because once you have this style of leadership also, it's very easy to people want to get in control of the situation and pedal the boat to the other side. So I always bring back to, okay, so this is the most efficient, this is the best way that we can go right now. And really to hear people, because I'm not the owner of the truth. And many people who were working in specific subjects, they knew and they know much more than me. So being able to actively listen to them. And I think that's a skill that is very underappreciated in these days, to be able to really listen a person. Most of the times I see people not listening, but you were just waiting to talk something. So
Mm.
you were trying to convince someone about something. And I was more, okay, let me listen to you and to your points and to your what you're seeing that I'm not seeing. Because if you're in the front there, let's say our support team, the person who are actually engaging with the customer there.
Mm.
So this person is very important for the team, because I can be sit here and being far away and having the ideas of how the customers are, especially in times like this where things are changing so fast. I really need to know what this person is seeing from their eyes. And I won't be able to do all the jobs of all the people in the company, but being able to actively listen to them, really silence myself to listen to what they're saying, and not being rushed to answer or to convince or to give an answer. And also being comfortable. I think that's a function of leadership, being comfortable with the position of, I don't know, and maybe you know, and let me listen to you. And it's not you trying to convince me and I trying to convince you. Again, it's a vision that we collective have, and that we are going towards that direction. And together, using their different skills, but with the same purpose, we'll be able to get there with more probability, because it's low probabilities of success in things that you start with little knowledge or the word. I think every time now we have more probabilities, but it's still the chances are most that you fail as a startup first founder. So being able to listen to people who want actually to are on the same boat as you. And I would say the last point is about ethics, like about you can hire people who are very good at what they do, but if they are not in the way you want, that you consider ethics for the work you do or the purpose that you have. So these people will eventually, people are not in startups for money. Like I can say for myself, I would be making more money in the banking. People are there for the vision, for the year, and money is amazing, and it is part of that, but it's not everything. So if you're doing things only for money, you eventually will get bored or tired. Or so doing things for a purpose bigger than yourself is also the best way to get people on board, to get people who share. In our case, is traveling. So people who traveled, people love traveling. So we're connecting to this purpose. And also, I think one last thing that we are good into doing, and I think it's a great function of leadership, is about culture. So culture is a word that became very, it's like meditation. It's like words that don't mean anything right now. So culture is something that people talk and they just say this word because it's fancy to say culture now. And it's like ping pong tables and having beer and these things may be part of that, but it's really what happens when nobody's saying. I think that's the best definition that I heard from culture so far. So if you're trying to force a culture and it's just not happening this way because you're not engaging people collectively on this culture. So culture is something that it's not that you write down and you put in the wall and now everyone will follow that. Maybe in the army it was like that, but in a startup where you need, it's very hard to find talent and to keep talent, and competition is very strong to hiring people. So being able to have a culture where people really feel comfortable and really feel part of that and are really giving their best is really hard, but I feel that's an essential part of leadership too.
How do you, I mean, it's there's two things that I'm immediately thinking of there in your situation as well is one, it seems to me that culture always comes from example, right? So again, people see what you do and act the same way. So I think, if you turn up 10 minutes late to meetings all the time, that signals to other people that is acceptable as well. On the other side, do you use specific tactics? I remember you were very good at doing one-on-ones with people, even if they're not sort of directly, reporting to you in some way. What tactics do you feel are useful because I think this is relevant for a product manager as well. Vision is not just for a CEO. It is something that has to be synthesized upwards in different ways. What tactics do you use to gather inputs? You mentioned, really listening to people, for example. Do you use a specific meeting structure for that? Or is it just sort of as you said, being around the office and connecting with people?
Yeah, I was very involved in, I think until we have about 30 people, I was involved in hiring and I was doing one-on-one with everyone. And I felt for many time, I used a lot of time in doing that. And after that, it became more part of the culture. And then I didn't do as often, and now I'm not involved now in all the hirings or all the one-on-ones. But for some time, it was very important to, in the initial years, I'd say, to build the culture. And either on one-on-one or especially when conflict happened, I wanted to connect with people to mostly what happens when things are not spoken, they are underlying. So they're happening there kind of in the air, in attention, let's say attention. So it's happening. And if I don't actively as a CEO or as the founder, as the manager, go there and try to it's not trying to fix it, but it's like, okay, let me give my best and try to understand that and to offer possible solutions. It's really about trusting people. Like I feel this point. So I really trusted people there. Also, I was involved in the hirings, involved in the conflicts. So if I am involved in the hirings, involved in the conflicts, but I don't trust people, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So it's really the ability to trust people. And if you don't trust people, better you don't have people around you that you don't trust. So it's way more tense for you to be around people that you don't trust. So create this trust, and people won't trust each other also. Like I was doing that and I was doing my best, but it's still there will always be people who don't trust each other. So just there and doing my best into hearing them, offering possible solutions from my experience, from the vision of the company, and putting everyone on the umbrella, below the umbrella of the vision of the company. Because conflicts, they are small comparing to what we can achieve together. So trying to bring people back to why are we doing that? Where are we heading to? And then we can have better ways to find. I won't be able to fix all the problems of the company. And that is a lesson that I learned, like that will just burn me out if I just try to fix all the problems. But the main ones, I have to make sure that they are things are happening in the best way possible for the company. So being able to prioritize the conflicts or the relationships or the vision, the goal, the goals, the KPIs, anything that you feel that for your business at this moment is the most important thing, you really need to be on top of that and really say for the other things you won't be able to be there, but but show that you are there, show that you care, and things that are small, okay, let people decide. So trust people that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing, sort of touching on that point of sort of ego and the issues that causes in leadership. A lot of our conversations, particularly over the last year or so, have been around this ego and impact and purpose. A big transition that I've noticed in you since we met like 3-4 years ago, a similar one to myself, is moving away from this, that hyper growth, Silicon Valley, go big or go home sort of mentality. I know you spent a lot of time there. What do you feel, what sort of triggered that for you, that sort of step back away from that world?
Yeah, I lived for 2 years in Silicon Valley, and that was great learning. I connected with amazing people from like best investors in the world to Airbnb founders and leaders of the main companies there. So for me, it was like a MBA. I was like for 2 years learning, connecting, and was impressed by the quality of the work that people do there. Like a lot of knowledge, a lot of execution, a lot of ownership. So for me, it was like I was learning from that, and then was looking to my team in Brazil. It was really hard to connect these two. Like the reality there is like a lot of very talented people and very hardworking people, and also very well paid people. Like competition is super strong. So we raised money, about $2 million, and we were trying to grow our team in the US. And that was very, very challenging for our business and for our culture, and to have this global team, and to was too much things for me, especially from my nature of connecting to humans. I was there I went alone there, then we started to build a team there. So I had a team in São Paulo, the team in the US, and also other people around the world. So I was given, I would say, more than I was able to handle physically. So I had a burnout there, and I was just I didn't have energy to do things anymore. So I got some time to recover and to take care of myself, my healthy. And then when I came back, that's about year and a half, 2 years ago, I decided not to burn me out again. So not go again in a position that I was doing things. I was to wake up and drink a coffee at 6 a.m. and start working until night. And I was waking up worried and weekends worried. So I was constantly worried and comparing myself with the people there in Silicon Valley who were like from Stanford, from Harvard, who had 5 businesses before, who were raising $100 million. So for my ego, that was very frustrated, because I was wanting to push hard to be the best, to be in this, to be someone there. And it's very hard to be on top when you're in Silicon Valley. It's kind of, you are competing with the best in the world, and there is abundant resources, abundant people, but the competition is super hard for you to retain people and to have the best people in strategy there. So I came back to Brazil with that knowledge, and I think that was very helpful for the team. But also I decided that it's kind of a very, very, very hard task if you want to build a Silicon Valley style company who are growing like crazy, raising a lot of money. And I noticed that in my health. So I was giving up my passions or my relationship, family. I wasn't able to keep up with all those things. So work became the only priority, the only thing that I had. So after that, that's still a very important part of my life, but I was able to balance more with personal life. Like I'm living in nature now, or like surfing, that's something that I enjoy, or being with my family, and also having like, okay, now I'm going to work and I'm going to do my best. And now I'm not going to worry about that. Because before, if the company was doing well, I was happy. If the company was not doing well, I was sad. So I learned to detach myself from the company in a point that, okay, I'm Rick, this human being here who have needs and other things beside work, and there is a company. So, and the things, when you're a founder, you are on on the go the whole time, they become one thing. So company becomes your life becomes a company, and that might be not healthy for you, and not for the company, nor for the other people around you. So learn to differentiate that and do your best when you are there, but also don't forget your passions, your family, your hobbies, the things that you want to do. Eventually you become more productive and better. If you want to become like a Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, that might not be the answer, I don't know. But to have a more balanced life, and that's what I started putting more focus on, to have a balanced life, to live a happy and fulfilling life. That business, money, achievements are part of that, but are not everything. So I see many people just focus on achieving. And from my experience, that ends up in a burnout. Because even if you reach the success that is very few people had of being like the best in Silicon Valley, I just question myself, is it worth it? You know, all the things that you gave up to.
I just think you look at, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, you go like, are these guys really happy? I think some of them are. But Elon Musk has like 5 kids or something that he never sees. So I think it's all, something I've learned as well with my first business. It went through the same thing, just burning out, just obsessing over like fundraising, trying to be the next big thing. And, you just go, actually, like, what are my personal goals? Like, how do I define success? What is the vision for my life? And I think it's just saying like, I don't want to do that thing. I want to do this other thing. And that's completely fine. And actually, I think in a lot of cases, you become more effective because you're able to detach yourself from, your ideas and sense of, as you said, you're detaching yourself from the business. So you can observe more objectively, decision making and zoom out a little bit more effectively. That also touches on a point that I remember we talked about last time we spoke around, this topic as well of like impact, right? I think something that I was always obsessed with is trying to have global impact, like, try and change the world immediately. I remember last time we spoke, you gave me the good advice that actually, it doesn't need to be, you don't have to try and change 1 billion people's lives. It's actually simple things like, how you engage with someone at the supermarket, how you, take a mentorship call, for example, like how you make these human connections. Where do you find that sort of realization came from for you?
Yeah, I have a sign here in my living room. I'll read to you. It's like, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. It's from Rumi, a Persian poet from the 12th century. So for me before it was like, I don't know who put that in my mind or how I put that in my mind, that I needed to create a big impact in the world and to really build this business of $1 billion, and that it will employ a lot of people, and that it will be. And I noticed also that comes from the ego, not from the genuine desire of because if you have a genuine desire of impact the whole world and to change everyone's life, like physically, humanly, it's just impossible to do that. So we eventually will destroy you. So if you are destroying you, you are not contemplating the whole world as a being more happy. Like we have the duty to create things that help the world and to help our loved ones and to make our lives better. So we came with this mind, this body that we can learn and use and build things, and that's very enjoyable of doing. And also you can make a living out of that and creating and building habits and passions around that. But if you're constantly looking to that, I noticed in my case that was more a competitive thing. And I studied a bit of psychology in this kind of burnout. So it comes a lot on the wounded child. So when we were children, we wanted to please our parents, and we keep taking this idea of pleasing the parents, pleasing others, pleasing the investors. So competing from our brothers to resources, we compete with other founders, other CEOs for who is the best, who has more fundraising. We compete for media attention, who is more out in the media, and these big egos, and we see a lot in these very big, famous CEOs. I noticed there is a very childish thing to do sometimes. Is that mostly have like our emotions that we didn't deal with those. For me, therapy helped me a lot, looking better in why I was doing those things. So if you're doing for being happy and for helping other people, eventually you're not succeeding because you're being like an asshole in the office. You're not treating yourself properly. So it's a counterproductive thing to do. So this phrase from Rumi, I always keep reminding me, I can change myself, I cannot change others. And business and is the way that I operate in the world. I think as a founder, as you have superpowers, like being multitask or bringing people to a vision and building things. That's a superpower that we can and use in the world, as long as it is healthy for you and the people around you. So when you think about stakeholders, especially now in the world that it's not just about profit, it's about people, it's about the planet, it's about the environment, it's about how we can reduce inequalities, how can we use a cause to help really indeed, and not just competing to who has more money in the bank account. It's just not, I just think right now that it's just not what the world needs and what will make me or you happy.
Yeah, it's also really interesting with, I noticed this when I'm living in Berlin now, but when I go back to London, or what I imagine Silicon Valley to be like, is there's people always just going. They never pause to actually say like, think long enough about what are my goals. So, going to work, they've got Instagram up, like notifications, ping. They never stop to say, actually, like, what do I want to, like, what is ultimately like taking care of your happiness and purpose as much as you do, let's say, your physical health, right? Is not something that's generally done. I mean, one thing as well that I know you've done, again, you mentioned early, 3 years sabbatical. I know recently you did, was it nearly a year or so, last year, was it? This is an interesting topic, right? What do you think the impact was for you of that sort of that really taking yourself out of your sort of normal environment, taking time off to really, ultimately like think through what you want to do with life? How powerful was that for you?
Yeah, I'll get to this point of kind of gap year, but before, like, just to finish on Silicon Valley, one thing that I noticed that everything's so expensive there and so competitive there that you kind of don't have the time to stop. Like San Francisco used to be a really cool city. The best right now is a very competitive people want to please the VCs, and everything's so expensive there, like real estate. So you need to make more money, and you have other opportunities, and these big companies, they are acquiring smaller companies. So the dream now in Silicon Valley is to build a company to be sold to one of these big four, like the Google, Facebook, Amazon. While before, in the like early days of Silicon Valley, was really about creating disruption, really about improving the world. And there's still people doing that there, but now it's always spread all around the world. I don't think you need to be in Silicon Valley to that. and probably there you find really hard to do that because everything's so expensive and hiring so competitive that the trend now is to leave Silicon Valley. So I think it's good to have connections there and you're learning there, but to build a business there is like really hard, especially for talking about purpose and a cause. I feel that people are many times disconnected from the reality of the world there. And going to gap year for me was essential. I always like to do trips that reconnect to me to myself and that I have really time. First time I did that when I was 18. I spent 4 months in the US working at a ski station as a waiter to learn English. I never saw snow before. And then I did after a few years in Spain during the university. I was living there and for 6 months and connecting to other people. And then when I did this 3 years trip, was really, I want to see the world. I want to connect with something that was not my regular job in the banking. So, and I also don't think people have to travel 3 years for that, but it's the concept of taking some time off. I feel that is very powerful because usually in our routine, in our daily lives, we are surrounded by judgment from our friends, our family. Kind of everyone does things that are similar to what you're doing. There's the routine also makes this side of the brain that is okay. Like kind of if you're driving, you can talk on the phone, you can do other things because the mind is already knows how to drive. It's not safe, but like it's possible to do. But once you're in your daily job, your daily life, talking to the same people in the same places, you kind of get a limited version of reality. While the world is so big, there's so much things out there. And when you travel, you go somewhere else and not traveling as a product. I mean, not traveling to take picture on Instagram and show to other people, but traveling as a way of self-knowledge, as a way of reconnect to yourself, to your dreams, or to fulfill one of your dreams, to visit a place that you always dreamed of, or to visit a culture. And once you do that, you kind of get that spontaneity back again. And if you're back to the children that are in the state of presence. So new colors, new flavors, new people, new food, new languages. So your brain becomes much more activated because you're more present to new things. So if you're in the old habits with the same people in the same place, kind of you don't need this side of the brain. So kind of turn it off. So when you're in this sabbatical or gap year or whatever you want to call it, reconnection with nature, in cultures, different cultures, for me it was very essential to kind of recalibrate my life and to check, okay, these things I'm doing good, these things I need to change. It's not making me happy. So until now, I do that, taking some time off and go to a different place. And really, Bill Gates do that. He goes to a place where in a room, he takes some books and he doesn't go out there until, and he doesn't take books of business. He takes books of things that interest, that he really feels passionate to. Might be art, might be animals, whatever makes you passionate. So disconnecting you from what you do on a daily basis and going to a place to reconnect with your passions, for me is like surfing, is different cultures, is like nature. So going to those places for me was always a very powerful thing to put my life back in track, because doing that in the place that you are is very hard, because you keep being bombarded by the same ideas, the same principles, the same people. So taking this gap year sabbatical for me is one of the most underrated things that we can do. It might be very cheap. You might be doing a volunteering thing somewhere else. You might go to a place that you always dreamed of. So at the same time, you are fulfilling a dream, a passion of yours. You are increasing your capacity to view the world and to know yourself. And it might be very affordable too, especially now with remote work, with COVID, like people are still waiting a bit to do that. But I'm seeing already at Worldpackers, a lot of people already booking their trips for the upcoming month. Yeah. So I highly recommend taking a gap year, whatever makes you connect to this place of dreams, of creativity, of learning with passion, and not need to be constantly producing, building. Sometimes taking the mind to a rest. It's like if you're speeding up your car to go to a gas station, and if you don't stop in that gas station, and if you keep rushing, you'll be out of gas sometimes. So I see this metaphor as a way to put gas.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I think also just that questioning of convention you get when you go into another culture, like the different way that people do things as well. You start to, I think it just brings home some of the questions like, why do I do certain things? Like, why am I doing my career or whatever? I think it's really, really powerful. Cool. I'm going to open up for any questions from everybody listening in. Any questions? Otherwise, I've got a final one. Kozua, go for it.
Yeah, recently I started working with a co-founder who were like a typical young co-founder full of energy. He is willing to work something like 60 hours per week, something like that. How should I, or how do I, how to say, talk to him or motivate him? How to say, whether that is the way that he is doing right now might be not the best way to achieve his success, because it's going to be at the end, sooner or later, he's going to be burned out, crazy, and whatsoever.
Yeah, I would say it depends from person to person. Some people can really work like that and go for a long way, and there might be not that you can do. Like, it might be a very good thing to have someone on board with this drive, but I think being honest and being transparent and bring this subject from time to time. So, why are you working too much? How are you feeling about that? Because for me, I would say, like, many of my work is to think and take decisions. So I need to have a clear mind to take decisions. And many people is really executing. So it might be his passion, might be at this moment of his life what he needs to. It might be very good for you and for your business. But I just believe that it's important to be transparent and bring the subject from time to time. Otherwise, when it might be too late, otherwise at some point you'll just burn out and quit the business or do nothing. So from time to time, just bringing that, how you're feeling, like, are you okay with that? And because as a founder, CEO, your job might be to check him out and to take decisions on helping directing him. So I wouldn't say that's a bad thing by nature. Sometimes there are some times that I'm really like that too, but checking out with him, it might be healthy.
Yeah, and you can also just do things like have a set thing every month where it's non-work. So like you go out to dinner together and you connect on a human level beyond just work. It's quite effective. Cool. Second question from Bobby. How do you deal with toxic people, even when they are very talented?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try not to deal with them. Like I saw this Warren Buffett phrase, like he says, there is no good business with bad people, something like that. I might be mistranslating the words, but if you are surrounded with toxic people, it's really, really toxic. That if your goal is to build a huge business, it might be okay. So your focus, number one, is to build something really big, and you don't care about what is happening there. You just want something big that gives you money or passive income or whatever. In this sense, it might be okay for you. But if you want to build something surrounded by people that you admire and that you learn from, and with a culture and energy that you feel comfortable being with, it's better not having them. So I'd say first, everyone is toxic and everyone is not toxic. So we are human beings, so have our light and our shadow. So I would try to talk to this person and giving honest and direct feedback on the situations that this person was toxic, because it might be they might just not have the knowledge or not know what they're doing. Or if you go to Silicon Valley, for example, I saw many companies where this is incentivized. So people really, okay, being toxic is good. So for many people, they come from this background. In the corporate world, many times being toxic is good for the ecosystem there. So I would say try to be honest to this person, and not just saying toxic, but like pointing the specific situations where you found that this person could have acted differently, and ask them, why did you act like that? So it might be a good way to learn from this person's experiences, because also you don't know which experiences this person had in the past. It might come from a toxic job or from a family that you were putting a lot of pressure on them. So being honest about the specific situations where you believed things could have happened with very, I would say, gentleness, but not running away from the theme. And otherwise it will just become a snowball, and it might be too late afterwards that. But I wouldn't say, okay, like just fire this person or get away from, because it might be just a lack of conversation and alignment that you need in order to be on the same page.
Nice. This is a great question from Richard. Was the $2 million a blessing or a burden?
Both, yeah. So if I would go back in time, at that time when we started, so we started in 2014, and I was working in a hostel. So I was, after these 3 years traveling, I was working in the reception of the hostel in San Diego, and I was having a lot of fun. For me, when I was in the banking, working was something annoying, and work is a necessary evil in the world. So when I was in the hostel, I was really happy about working. I was not making money, but I was not spending money. I was volunteering for the hostel, and I was really joyful and happy. So I partnered with Eric, this friend of mine, who was the manager responsible for the volunteers, and we started, let's do this. And we had read the Tim Ferriss book, The 4-Hour Work Week, about outsourcing to India. So we built a whole website in an Excel spreadsheet. I was an economist, he was an accountant, so we just understood about Excel. So we built a website then. We hired a person in India to do that. And long story short, he built a website in WordPress, was not scalable, and we appeared in a big media channel in Brazil when we launched, and the website went down when we were desperate. At that time, we were living in an office that my brother borrowed me. So we were actually sleeping in a mattress inside of a fancy office in a fancy avenue in São Paulo. And we didn't know how to charge. So we're doing that for lifestyle, for what our dream was. Okay, we can keep traveling the world and connecting these people, and they would be volunteering. We didn't have business model. So we were working very hard to a purpose, but we were very naive in terms of business models. So we got in an accelerator, startup incubator in São Paulo. And there we found a third co-founder who had technical skills to help with the website. He came from a marketplace. So we started getting more people on board, but we had no revenue. And we were appearing in the media in Brazil. We were winning some awards because we were, like, one post of this media channel was like 40,000 shares, like how to travel for free, how to travel. So, and some investors started to contact us. And I came from investment banking, so I knew how to talk with them. And the first round was about $300,000. And I feel that we did a very good contract because I had the experience with that before. But I see a lot of people who if the contract is not good, you're lost. So we had the total contract of the company. Then we started growing. Second investment round was $1.7 million. Then the second one was just 2 venture capitals. The first one was 1 venture capital and a bunch of angels. The angels were very helpful in connections, in mentorship. The venture capital is like, I consider a good venture capital if they don't disturb you. But I wouldn't expect much help. Besides that, some connections for future rounds, but mostly the angels can help if they're passionate too. So one of our angels was the CEO of a big OTA in Brazil, online travel agency. The other was, he built a big marketplace before. So these people were very helpful, and they put money, so they had skin on the game. So having people, I'd say the best one for investment is people who are knowledgeable, who had a good relationship, so they have skin on the game. This can be very helpful. For the venture capitals, they brought us some more very good structure in terms of company, how we're structured as a company. But eventually, we are 7 years down the road now since we started, almost 7 years. These people will want the money back. So right now, we had amazing relationships. The contract is good, but at some point, that might be some differences. So if I go back in time, I sometimes ask myself that, would I do that again or not? With the knowledge that I have today, I wouldn't, because today I know more about how to build a business, how to charge customers and everything. But with the mind that I had at that time, I didn't have this knowledge. So I feel that if I didn't have this money or these rounds, I probably wouldn't be here today. Like, we were literally working for free for a long time, and we're hiring volunteers to work for us. So we just didn't have the knowledge. But if I would start things again now, I would rather not have venture capitalists, but I would have angel investors who are aligned with the purpose, with the long-term goals of your business, and might be happy with dividends in the future. Because for the venture capitalists, dividends are not enough. They either you become a company 1 in 10 that they can sell and they make good money, or they're not. Because these guys, they have the general partners who own the money, who put the money in the venture capital firm. So they just make money if you make a lot of money for them. If you double your business and sell double the money that they put, they won't be happy about that, because their administration fee plus performance fee is not enough for all this period that they were invested in you. So there is people think that they lack money or technology to start their things or to grow their things, but from my experience, it's not that. Usually it's knowledge and connections. So if you can have traction, if you can have a market that makes sense and that you're making money out of that, I wouldn't have them. But if you want to build something really huge and very big, so it might be the best way, because these people, they have a lot of capital to keep putting, but you have to, once you start this game, you need to be hyper growth. I think some of my burnout was I was trying to be hyper growth, and we were growing at the time, but not like this venture, not to make a venture capitalist happy. And for making a venture capitalist happy, we're talking about 20% month over month growth. So on a continued amount of time. So that's a lot of pressure. It's really hard to do that, and very few people, business and companies can do that. So depending on the size of your business, and if I would just do that as we did, if they come to you, or if you are have something that they want, and you can put things in your own terms. Because if you need the money, you go to them, please give me money. So the whole relationship is changed and broken. Because imagine you are there in your house, someone's calling you for money. So it's just, I would say, they say in Silicon Valley, ask for feedback, get money. Ask for money, get feedback. So just build the relationships if you want to do that. But I'd say it's a blessing and a curse, because it helped us a lot. We were able to hire a lot of people, and we made a lot of mistakes with this money too. At some point, we were like burning about $60,000 a month, because we just had the money. So it made me learn. But if I could go back in time, I would be much more also skillful in how I was spending the money. But since the money was abundant, I was just spending them. So that's the answer.
Great question. Final question then from Antonia is, do you have any tips for surviving in a high-speed, always-on environment?
High speed? What do you mean by high speed?
Like always on?
Just sort of, yeah, this environment that you've been talking about. Do you have any tips for sort of navigating that?
Got it. Yeah, good question. Yeah, for me, I like my practice. I meditate every morning, 20 to 30 minutes. So just being silent, closing your eyes, like don't need to fancy techniques or anything, but just creating this safe space for you where, okay, this a place that I can come back to my presence. Or for some people it might be running or playing instruments, but having this any practice that you do on a regular basis, that sometimes you are in that high speed and very frenetic zone, everyone, and sometimes we're in a position in life that we have to be in this it's not an option not to be in this high speed zone. So and many people I enjoy sometimes being in this zone too, but also I enjoy going out and going back to that place. Could be music, could be ritual, anything that connects you to a different part of that. So I think there's a very healthy habit that for different people will be different things. It might be breathing techniques, might be reading books, might be getting to a movie that you really enjoy, might be writing. I love writing. Like I write every morning, like a few pages, just to make my feelings and thoughts more tangible. And that makes a way for you to either learn to be in this position and to give your best and become high speed to when you're there, because it's very hard if everyone is super high speed and things are happening and you are in a different mode, like meditation. You might be swallowed by this system. So I enjoy being that system sometimes, but also I enjoy going out and going back to myself and doing that within time, a regular practice. Like I just gave a few examples of what those can look like. You have more clarity to see if that's the way of life for you, or if you want to do something different, either start your own thing or join a different place where the speed is different, and depends of the moment of your life too. If you have a lot of energy and that's what you enjoy doing, or now you want to take care more of yourself, your family, or other stuff, I think depends of, and now there's so many opportunities and possibilities, but it's really hard to notice that being in this routine without a healthy habit, or like a morning ritual, or anything that connects you to different places, or without doing these sabbatical journeys or these times to get out and reflect. But I wouldn't say being in a high speed zone by itself is a problem. I think just becomes a problem if you are not in the mood of doing that. Then might become something very hurtful for yourself if you are kind of fooling yourself and pretending you are something at this moment that you are not.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Because we're coming up to time, I think that's a good place to pause. Let's give a quick round of applause for Heat. That was really, really interesting conversation. A little virtual,
Thank you.
Quiet virtual one. Awesome. So, I mean, this is the final end of week 6 for everyone. So I'll just give a couple of words before we wrap up. So I know we've covered a lot the last 6 weeks, right? We've gone from this like really space of uncertainty and throwing you in at the deep end, right? Really going after ideas and not quite sure whether the idea was a good one or not, and going all the way through to, in some cases, actually generating revenue, or at least validating an idea. But I think beyond that, it's also important to say that, this has not just been about like specific tactics to use in future, but also about like how you are, how learning really about yourself as well, right? How you deal with uncertainty, how resilient you can be, also how you can do a lot with limited resources at times when you feel, you may not have experience in whatever market you're working in, and still pushing through and going strong with that. So although we're wrapping up today, this is not a sort of final sign off. I think from our side, we love to keep the Slack community active. We love to also see how you progress over the next few months and years. I know quite a few of you are going to be taking the business idea you've started with forward. So it's not just a 6-week course. This is ultimately a multi-year thing. And I think final thing is thank you to you guys for participating. It was a risk to join this Prod MBA, first ever one. And I've been really, really impressed, balancing day jobs, and Daniele having kids running in on his calls and stuff. You've got a lot of other things going on. So I think give yourselves also a big, round of applause for sticking with this and getting to where you are now. So what I'd love to do just to finish off is everyone puts their video on. I'll just do a nice screenshot. All right, who we got? Jason, excellent. Right, if everyone does a big wave, we can do a final screenshot of the program. One sec, let me make sure I do this properly. All right, ready? All right, cheers. Done. So yeah, let's give one final round of applause for you guys as well for participating. And then we're going to be on Slack, going to be available as well, so we can continue our journey over the next few weeks as well. So thank you for participating, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. No, all good. Tony, I hope you have a good.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thanks, Henry.
No, all good. No, it's been a pleasure, real pleasure. I've learned as much as you guys have, hopefully, so if not more. So it's been a real pleasure. Awesome. So
good luck. Good luck with the next iteration and the next students.
We'll see. Now I'm going to be chasing you up for one thing that will really help: filling in a survey. I'm going to email you over the weekend. Survey and just a video testimonial as well would be a massive help for us with the second iteration. So yeah, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed sort of seeing you guys progress as well with different things. And yeah, have a good weekend as well.
Thanks, Henry. Hey, guys, I don't know if I'm out of bounds by saying this, but I feel really, really good about being the first part of this whole course, Henry. So thanks for including me into this whole thing. And all you guys, I appreciate all of everything that I was able to read about all of your wonderful ideas. And hopefully I get to that point too. So thanks again, man. No,
my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Well, have a good weekend. And see some of you on Slack and on a couple of calls next week as well.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.